defending the body of Moses. Michael is probably the most well-known angelic being mentioned in the Bible. We know Michael is an archangel. However, what does that specific role entail for him? What has he accomplished, and what are his responsibilities, and how does he fit into the heavenly host that God has assembled? God has chosen to withhold a lot of information from us regarding the events leading up to Moses' passing. God gave him a glimpse of the promised land, even though it was impossible for him to set foot there. Moses gazed toward the promised land while perched on the peak of Nebo, which is part of a mountain range known as Pisgah. This peak is located in what is now the modern nation of Jordan. Moses was not allowed into the promised land because he had disobeyed God. Moses directly disobeyed God by striking the rock rather than speaking to it. The death and burial of Moses, the Lord's servant. Deuteronomy chapter 35, verses 5 through 8, Amplified Bible. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord, and he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But no man knows where his burial place is to this day. Although Moses was 120 years old when he died, his eyesight was not dim, nor his natural strength abated. So the sons of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab for 30 days. Then the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended. We read, So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab. Moses' epitaph, what we might call a line on his tombstone, though he actually had none, was simple. It had nothing to do with Moses, Prince of Egypt. It was not Moses, Egyptian murderer. It had nothing to do with Moses, shepherd in the wilderness. It was not Moses, national spokesman. It was not Moses, the miracle worker. It had nothing to do with Moses, prophet. It had nothing to do with Moses, the man who saw a piece of God's glory. It had nothing to do with Moses, who never entered the promised land. At the end of it all, the title was simple: Moses, the servant of the Lord. Jude 9 describes an occasion when Michael the archangel was at odds with the devil over the body of Moses. It would appear that there was a dispute regarding the body of Moses, and Jude indicates that Michael the archangel triumphed in this conflict by appealing to the authority of the Lord, saying, "The Lord rebuke you," in response to the other party. But it is not entirely clear why Michael fought Satan over the body of Moses in the first place. Some people believe that the devil intended to use the body of Moses as an object of worship to tempt Israel into engaging in idolatry. God wanted to protect the body of Moses so no one knows his grave to this day. Apparently they foraged for it, as would be expected, out of a passion for marking this great leader of the nation. When Moses passed away, he had lived a life that could be neatly segmented into thirds. He had lived 120 years. He served as the crown prince of Egypt for 40 years, then spent 40 years as a simple shepherd in the desert, and finally spent 40 years guiding the children of Israel to their destination in the Promised Land. The first two-thirds served as a foundation for the final third's content and activities. Moses was willing to allow God to mold him over a period of 80 years. This proved that the observation made in Deuteronomy 31:1 was correct, because neither his eyes nor his natural vigor had diminished. The children of Israel shed tears, but eventually the period of mourning and lamentation over Moses' death ended. The days of mourning for Moses, who was of such great importance, came to an end. It was time to move on to other things. The program that God had in mind did not come to an end with Moses, nor did it come to an end with any man. The baton had been handed off, and the work of God will continue. We are told that there has not been another prophet like Moses to arise in Israel since that time. However, there have been great rulers of Israel, as well as leaders, prophets, and priests. But before the arrival of Jesus Christ, who is known as the Messiah, there was never another man who held all offices in such a glorious manner as Moses did.